You can do it either way.
Can I do it from our page? From In Touch?
Oh, you don't have, no, it's not, it's go to Supermax.
Okay.
And then you share it, you know, through the watch party.
But can you see everybody's comments though? Or-
It depends on the page you are watching from. You know, you can open the browser.
So you started already, right?
Where are you gonna share from?
Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is obviously Wednesday, 8 o'clock p.m., and you have found the In Touch with the Miller Boys, your weekly talk show where we discuss all things impacting the African American community of the city of Fresno and the surrounding area, as well as the nation. I'm always joined by my partner in crime for the last 50 plus years, my brother, G.Douglas.
22 years.
Yeah, okay. We need to add a multiplier on there.
No.
But as we always do, we have a lot of fun in here discussing things that are impacting us, you, and those that you care about. As I always start, and we'll do until the time runs out, please make sure you get your census done. 2020census.org or census2020.org. Either site will get you to the right place. Please make sure you get that done. Remember, when you're doing your census, you are accounting for everybody that lives at a particular address. It's not about the individual people, it's about the address. So please go to the website, log in your address, punch in how many people live there. Those people who are there part-time, make sure you account for them. We got to get this done, and there's no excuse. Those of you who are not technologically savvy, there's a phone number also to call. I'll make sure that I start putting that phone number up so that those of you who do not have the tech savvy to be able to do online registrations, you can do it through the telephone. So we'll make sure to get that done. Second thing, make sure that you get registered to vote. We are approximately 118 days, I believe it is, 117 days from the next election, which is on Tuesday, November 3rd. Please visit sos.ca.gov, which is the Secretary of State for the State of California's website. If you go there, right on their front page, it will click. Here's a link, what it looks like, and it will say register to vote. There in the top box, click on there, do the simple registration, and then you'll be registered to vote in the November election. Remember, everybody in California will get their ballots. All registered voters will get their ballot mailed to them at home, whatever address you're registered at. And then you have a couple different ways that I'm not going to get into right now. There's a couple of different ways that you can return your ballot to make sure that you are participating in this round of the 2020 election. Yours truly will be on the ballot. I am running to retain my position on Fresno County Office of Education, Area 3. So those of you who live in the center part of Fresno, up to north boundary is Clinton, south boundary is American, going just outside the city limits at the bottom. To the east, it's Peach, and to the west, it's Highway 99. So if you live inside of that area, you are in Area 3, and you will see Dr. Daren Miller's name on your ballot, and I hope that I'm able to earn your support, your continued support to remain in that position. So with all of that, what's on your mind, G.Douglas?
Oh, my mind is so free. Ooh-wee. Nothing, man. I'm glad and blessed to be here. Got up this morning, just being me. You know, well, I'll take that back. You know, I always, things pop in my mind like a popcorn machine. This school situation, you know, you're the expert on school situation. I have my thoughts. If I had my dredges, I wouldn't send my kids back to school and to a infected area to pass the little COVID germs around and around and around.
So you don't have that option, though, at least till January. Los Angeles.
Wait. I have options. I can take them out of. I can take them out of school.
You can't send them. You won't be able to send. There's no option for you to send them to school until.
I can keep them home and stay offline and do nothing. That's that would be my option for the school year. I'm not too keen about sending my kids into a teacherless environment either.
You lost me, but okay. So LA Unified, which is the largest school district in the state of California, San Diego Unified, which is the second largest, and Fresno Unified, which is I think they're the third or fourth largest school district, have already said they're not going to have any face-to-face classes for the fall semester. So that means none of the school sites are going to be open for face-to-face traditional types of instruction until at least January. I'm assuming with that announcement from Fresno Unified that just happened, I think it was yesterday, they made that announcement. I'm assuming that the other school districts here, in particular the larger metropolitan school districts, so Central, Clovis, Kings Canyon, Sanger, those larger school districts will be also not having face-to-face classes. Smaller school districts like the ones that's way up in the top of the hills that only has 80-something kids, I could see them coming up with some type of modified system and structure to have face-to-face. But, you know, the CSUs, all the CSU campuses, all 24 campuses, 23 campuses, have already said they're not going to have any face-to-face classes until January. That's Fresno State. I believe Fresno City College or the State Center Community College system also said they're not going to have any face-to-face classes until January. So I'm a school district who said that they were going to open to have some kind of face-to-face, provide face-to-face instruction. Is going to be taking a lot of liability on by doing that.
By doing what?
By having teachers in a face-to-face setting with their students.
Right. So I'm against that. And I'm also against online learning and having my children do things of that nature.
So then how do you expect for them to be stimulated educationally? You're saying you as a parent are going to take that on to?
Personally, I would not give a hoot if they're stimulated educationally in that formal setting. They would just take a year off.
Ooh, well, I'm definitely not on board with that.
Of course you're not. I get that.
Children, and I also want to say that the best learning environment for students, in particular, at the early ages, kindergarten through or pre-K, but through third or fourth grade, is to be in a school site, because then that's where you develop your socialization.
So their school setting would be between the teacher and sitting in front of a computer, doing Zooms, and we did that last semester.
Correct. That's what schools are going to be doing,
right.
Assuming some type of version of that in the fall. But what I'm saying is the best environment for kids, in particular pre-K through fourth, is to be in a one-on-one, hands-on situation so that they get not just the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, the academic side of it, but it's all the socialization, washing your hands, sharing things, being responsible. That you say you're going to the restroom, that you're going to the restroom, and that you're not out on the playground messing around. It's all those types of socializational skills that are also reinforced at those earlier grades, which is one of the rules. The
You
schools
kind of
take.
lost me. So are you talking about sending them to school, or are you talking
No, no,
about?
no. I'm saying no, they shouldn't. But I'm
Right.
just saying that the best,
Okay,
optimal.
but the best now is not an option for the people like you said earlier in Fresno Unified, because
Correct.
they're going to do everything online. So what do you do with the parent who can't teach, or who doesn't have Wi-Fi, or who doesn't have a laptop for their children, and finds themselves behind? My daughter went to her school last year. There were several students in her class that fell into that dilemma. Do they just get left behind?
Unfortunately, unless the school district has put some provisions in place, then yeah, they would be left behind.
Okay.
I know the Fresno Unified, I don't know to what degree, but I know Fresno Unified put in a laptop distribution. I know at the high school level they did all that. And I believe at the middle school level, I don't know how they did it with the lower grades. There is a little bit of an issue in different areas in the city of Fresno with Wi-Fi accessibility. That's a larger issue on the outskirts. So when you're talking about, you know, I can't even think of any of the school districts right now that are on the outskirts, the smaller ones. Raisin City, Carruthers, and places like that that are not metropolitan areas that have, you know, 60,000 people or so. There's going to be issues about how then do you create that. Some of the strategies that the school districts were using was school buses have Wi-Fi capabilities, and there were districts as well as the Southwest Transportation busing thing that's way out there on 41. They would go and park their bus in a particular area for all day, so that people can then use that bus's Wi-Fi to be able to have connectivity to be able to keep up with what was going on in the lessons. And so there is some creativity that's been going on with some of the smaller school districts to be able to take on that burden. The other thing, the issue and concern is it has to do with food. You know, seeing that most of our kids, I don't know what the number is in the county, but I do know that in Fresno Unified, it's like over 80% of the kids, I want to say it's approaching 90% of the kids are free and reduced lunch. And so what do they do for their meals? A lot of our students and parents relied on the school system to be able to provide meals to the kids. And so I'm assuming they're going to be ramping up some type of system like they had in the spring, where people would come, they would designate a particular school site. This is where they would be giving out lunches or breakfasts or whatever. And then parents would come through and they would do like a drive-through type of thing to pick up stuff. So I know that those are the things that's been discussed throughout the county. So there was a big, we were on a Zoom call on Monday. Fresno County, it was sponsored by Fresno County Superintendent Jim Uvino, and it was all the superintendents in the county as well as all of the board members were all invited to this Zoom meeting where Fresno County Health Department head was speaking there. There was some doctors from Valley Children's that was on there giving their insight. And then there was a period of questions at the end for the superintendents and other school officials to be able to ask. But that was before Fresno Unified decided to shut down. It was, I think, like I said, I think they did it yesterday, and that meeting was on Monday. So it's this whole coronavirus thing is ever evolving. Our numbers in Fresno County are still going up, and I've been doing some studying and research on it. Have you heard that they've got this study right now that supposedly people who have O positive blood are less likely to contract the virus?
No, I haven't heard that.
I didn't read through it thoroughly. It was something that I picked up on the internet. I need to go back in there and read it. And the reason why it was interesting to me is it said that the headline was people who have this blood type are showing less susceptibility to the virus. Well, guess what? I'm O positive blood. And so I wonder if that's true, if I'm now a carrier, not a carrier, but if I have the antibodies, you know, if I've been infected with the virus and my body's been able to fight it off. And so I'm trying to investigate being able to go do an antibodies test to see if that's the case. So it's just like I said, everybody right now has got an opinion. They're attacking Fauci big time right now. Politically, they're attacking him. But the guy is just doing what scientists do. As science gives you evidence, hard factual evidence, they can make a clear statement. When the science is not conclusive, then they can give you their general thoughts, and then they're attacking him.
So you think that the Trump administration and the people in there are attacking Fauci because he's conducting himself as a scientist?
Yes.
I think that they have listened to the dog whistle, and Trump has had leaned into attacking Fauci for his differences of opinions, and I think that it has that he hasn't figured out that Fauci knows what he's talking about. And it was the one guy, I don't remember what is the guy, one of his department heads went off on him, and they've censored that dude big time.
Yeah.
So I don't think that I don't see where they're necessarily attacking Fauci directly like Trump has attacked everybody else.
Trump is not attacked. And actually, I was surprised that Trump, the guy that you're talking about, who made the statement, that's getting kind of reprimanded now. I can't remember what his name is, but I know who you're talking about. Trump actually even said that guy was not acting in his official capacities. He was saying his own, using his own words. But the reason why Fauci is no fan, he's been excluded from all the meetings when they have their briefings and those type of discussions about the pandemic and what's going on, the group that the vice president leads. He's not even been invited to those meetings anymore. And it's because he is making his statements and basing his statements on science.
Facts.
Yeah, exactly. It's not based on, here's the political line, this is the side we want to get on. And so I appreciate that of him, because and I think that's really only a saving grace right now, is that the information he gives you, he's saying, this is what the data is telling us, and so he proves that as a fact. If it's something that it hasn't been proven, then he'll tell you that this is my opinion. This is what people are thinking.
Right.
And so I appreciate that part.
That's how it's supposed to be.
I agree.
To just run willy-nilly out there, not being a doctor, and give medical advice, tell people to drink Clear-X and stick a light up your butt.
Or open your schools. Schools will be open in the fall. You can't make that definitive response. And so I had a conversation the other day at one of my meetings where people were kind of getting upset with Gray Davis. I was on
You mean not Gray?
I'm sorry, not Gray Davis, but
Newsom.
Do you know Nicholas Wildstar? Have you met him yet?
No.
Governor Wildstar. So I was on his show. He's a libertarian. So I was on his show the other day, and some people were watching that, and then they were asking me some questions after the fact. And Wildstar right now is got a petition going to recall Gavin Newsom. And it's based on, he says that he is heavy-handed. He shouldn't be making declarations. And I'm like, well, he hasn't really declared anything. What he's been doing is he's saying, here's the situation, our numbers are going up, and that we need to restrict certain things. Whether or not a particular area shuts down is he's giving that responsibility back to the mayors. And I'm like, that's probably the best way to do it, because the circumstances in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Fresno, San Diego, these major metropolitan areas are going to be way different than being in Alpine County or in Siskiyou or what's the place up there, the Jefferson?
The land of Jefferson.
Land of Jefferson, whatever it is. The circumstances in those
51st state.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So the situation in our metropolitan areas is going to be way different up there. So I think it would be irresponsible of Newsom to say, I'm shutting down California. It's way different than Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, the city of New York, and some of those other states that are very, 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 very condensed areas, condensed populations. California can't do that just because of the difference in our landscape, where our metropolitan cities are located. And so, but it was just interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, about libertarian. You know what a libertarian is? No? Okay. Anyway, I won't get
Explain.
into that. I don't know if I'll do it justice,
No, you don't do it enough justice.
other than it being conservative light.
Okay.
For me, libertarians are Republican light.
Okay.
They don't believe that government should have any role in anyone's life, with a couple of exceptions: military, police, military, police, courts, and the court systems, because you need people to protect you need a system to protect people's property and people's rights. Other than that, they don't believe the government should be involved. It should be just a free-for-all. You should be able to do whatever it is you want to do. I should be able to do whatever I want to do, as long as it's not infringing upon other people. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's going to work very well, because he's a brother. I don't think that's going to work very well for us, man, because the rules, even in a free...
Wild Star is a brother?
Wild Star, yeah. That's
Okay.
his last name. I don't know if that's his God-given name or...
I shouldn't say a brother. Is an African American?
He is African American.
Okay.
He's new to the area. He's been there for the last couple of years or so. But he and I have had some conversations, and we differ. I agree with in certain things that things need to be changed. We need to take a look at. So he says the government is wasteful. Government is this. Government is this. And I take it back to him. Government is us. Okay, and so if we've got politicians, elected officials who are being wasteful and not being responsible, that's on us.
So he's upset because he's on the losing team.
Well, and the other thing is,
There's not enough of them.
he ran for governor 2 years ago, and I think he's running for something now. I'm like, so, brother, that's a contradiction for me. You say the government is bad, politicians are bad, but you're running to become one. I don't get that.
Because that's where the power and the control is. To me, it's all about power and control, and that's what he needs in order to enact his policies. But you've said a lot of things here that I've been munching down on, and yeah. So, do you consider Fresno County a Republican county?
Conservative. I wouldn't necessarily define it as
what would be
based
the
on a
opposite
political
of
party.
what would be the
Progressive.
opposite of the progressives? Okay.
Progressive.
So, do you think there's more progressives here than there is conservatives?
I know for a fact that there are more progressives here in Fresno County than there are conservatives.
But the conservatives run the county.
Correct.
Okay.
Because they
So
have been-
how do you think that that's going to fall through or filter out with
it's changing.
the majority of people now the minority, the conservatives, making statutes and legislations for the majority, which are the progressives, to go to school, to wear masks, to do all these different things. Whereas, your Libertarian Party, as you said, conservative light or Republican light?
They are conservative. Well,
Both?
both. Well, no, they're not conservative like. They are conservative, but they're Republican like.
Trying to steer the population into the understanding that it's not right for you guys to think this way and to try to maintain and govern us. That's not right.
Well, I mean, people are entitled to their opinions. We all have them, as they say, and they all, they like buttholes. That we all have them, and they all stink. I agree. So I'm not saying that people should not have. Everybody doesn't need to be of the same mindset. We need contradiction to make sure that's where accountability comes in. If everybody thought the same way and had the same mindset, if you and I always agreed on everything, when I got outside the line, then you would disagree with me, and guess what? Now we've just widened our lane. And now you go and you do something, you go outside on that lane, and I agree, because I always agree with you, we've just widened the lane. And so that's why we don't need to have all the same mindset. When you get outside the lane, I need to contradict you to get you back into the lane in direction in which we're going, rather than always widening. And so, yeah, I mean, God bless him. He can do what he wants to do. Did I lose you on that?
Big time.
Okay, so if you and I always agree, you're never wrong, I'm never wrong. We always agree. If this is the framework, this is the lane that we're supposed to be in, if I do something that gets outside of that lane, how do I ever get back into where we started, the lane in which where we started? It has to be a contradiction. You have to tell me that I'm wrong. I have to accept that to get back into lane. Either that, or we widen our lane now so that you and I are now traveling on the same lane, or I create my own lane. And that's a contradiction, because now we're traveling in two different lanes. But our system and our society doesn't work when everybody is in agreement. Doesn't work. It just won't work. You got to have wrong and right in a society. You got to have wrong and right, as a matter of accountability. If everything is always wrong, then you can't have right.
That makes absolutely no sense.
If it's always dark, if you and I always are in the dark, there is no light. If I bring a light bulb in, now we got to make a decision. Either we're going to stay in the light, or stay in the dark where we were before, or we're going to allow the light to come in, and we're going to have to change what we're doing. But that's an introduction of something that's outside of our norm. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I'm just saying that that's what makes our society work, is that people have their own opinions and they differ. The part that's breaking down as far as politics is those people who have those disagreements, there's no accountability. Politics right now is all about money. Whoever, it used to be you're supposed to live by the golden rule.
Well, I see what you're saying, but I think it's a little bit different. I think that the people that have been in power for so long, 400 years since the United States has been made, are now starting to lose their power. We started a race, bang, they tripped us, tied us up, threw us in the river, did all these types of things, and hauled ass, took off. And they had a lead that was so far out there. Well, now the rest of society is catching up to their power base and their power structure. And those folks are no longer able to trick the rest of society into buying the bullshit. And so now it's sliding back. They're coming back to the norm. And they have lived in a place where they've had not to care about other people in society's ways of doing and understanding. That's why I asked you earlier, who's the majority? Because the majority should rule.
Correct.
But it's not like, according to your own statement, it's not like that. The minority conservatives now are ruling the minority. What did you call them?
The majority.
The majority. Okay, so
but that's changing.
So that's yes, it's correct. It's changing. So that's the dichotomy in what's going on. The people that are in power are losing their power.
Correct. And the reason why is because of the difference of mindset. It's no longer acceptable.
Right.
The people
the lane is widening. The narrow lane that we were on, where everybody was pulling in the same direction, because the people that were in power only allowed you the 20 degrees of separation, and you had to move in that same lane. Now people are outside that box, and that lane is widening and widening with differences of understanding and opinions in our society. And the people who have the narrow focus are trying to maintain that narrow focus so that they can stay in power.
The reason why I would disagree with that the lane is widening to accept that, the example I would give you is the tearing down of these statues. And what was seen as okay, which has been accepted as okay, is not in the norm. Okay, and you're saying people are coming back to the norm. I'm saying that these statues that these people are taking down are outside the norm, and now people are calling BS on it. They are not widening the lane to take that into account. They're getting rid of that. They're making people get back into how they defined as norm.
Right. We are saying the same things, but kind of different. The narrow scope and lane was that those statues were okay because they were the norm.
So that means that the statues would be inside of the lane that's created.
It doesn't matter. Okay. The statues are inside the lane that was created, the 20%. And everybody had to go along with the understanding that even though those statues were there for a specific purpose, opposite of the 20%, the lane that they're in, right? We had to go along with it. If you didn't go along with it, you would be arrested, you would be beat, you would be hung, you would be put in jail, you would be all of these negative things. So you then conform to that narrow 20% degree of understanding. So what has happened now is the majority has jumped over the fence and said that this is not okay. These Confederate statues that remind minorities of a time when we were suppressed and hung and all of these things is not okay. And so now that's outside of that lane. And the minority is trying to keep those things from happening. But the greater majority has moved from the 20% to the 40% and have made accountabilities for all of these, the gay and lesbian coalition, the Hispanic rights, the African American rights. That lane has widened. So now those people that were in that 20% that were governing the whole of society from that narrow 20% are now fighting back because they don't want to lose their power. That's what I'm saying.
I got you. I just see it differently. I hear you and I agree with you. I just see it differently. I don't see it as the lane widening. I see it as the lane focusing. And that those things that have been traditionally inside of the lane are being discarded. Whether it be bigotry, whether it be racism, whether it be police brutality, whether it be whatever social woe that you have, poverty. One of the big things that's going on, not so much here, but across the nation, is there's people who are taking on and speaking out against poverty, people being in poverty. Now that means a lot of different things, but there is a national push also to eradicate what's going on with poverty. I see it as things, maybe not the lane getting smaller, but there are things inside the lane. The lane is definitely not getting wider. It's things that are being ejected.
It's got to be getting wider. It's got to be getting wider. It's expanding. The consciousness and the understanding is expanding. It's not staying the same. The 20%
But is it
lane.
expanding or is it refocusing? Because an expansion just means, if I gain 20 pounds, that's an expansion. I'm still Darren Miller. I'm still going to have the same mindset.
But you're not still going to have a 28 waist.
Correct, but I'm still the same person. It's just more of me. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that that's not,
okay.
I don't see that as what's going on.
Okay.
So yeah, I hear you. As usual, we see things slightly different. But I think that all the change that we're going through as a nation and country, as uncomfortable as it is, it's necessary. Progress does not happen freely. In order for you to grow, there must be some growing pains that goes along with that. And so I kind of see that as what we've got going through right now. And if there's one thing I can thank our current national administration for is exposing those things that we don't want to have. We as a society say are not cool. They're no longer acceptable, and that we're doing something. We're holding them accountable and doing something about it.
So do you think that population in which we're talking about, the controlling population, the conservative people that have been in control, do you think that they're afraid that they're losing something?
Hell yeah. They've been able to dictate, although it's a small number of them, they've been able to dictate. They've been able to get wealthy. They've been able to live comfortably. They've prospered during this period of time. And that's not about Democrats and Republicans, black or white, because there's Democrats, there's Republicans, there's black folks, there's white folks, there's Hispanics that have prospered during this struggle that's going on right now. And so for me, it's a matter of the 1%ers versus the rest of us. The 1% has done very, 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 very wealthy, or have become very, very wealthy and done very well since Reagan. And what we're seeing now is 40 years basically of Reaganism, and look at what it's done to our country. And people say, well, we had Clinton in there for 8 years. We had Obama in there for 8 years. Yeah, but they were cleaning up messes from the previous conservative administrations.
I don't think they were cleaning up messes. They were sticking their fingers in holes that were springing leaks. Trying to hold back the flood that Donald Trump has who thought he was going to open up and allow the floodgates to just gush down upon everybody.
So since 1980, in these 40 years, we have had 2 non-conservative presidents in 40 years, for a total of 16 years. We have not had back-to-back non-conservative administrations. When you go back and look at before Reagan, and you look at Eisenhower's deal and JFK and LBJ and those, there were some times in there where there was our president with polio, FDR,
Roosevelt.
He had 16 years, right? Or was it 12 years?
I don't know.
He was the one that the conservatives changed the rules because of him, because he would have continued to get elected because of the programs that he did. He basically used the government. Remember, he recovered after the conservatives, the Republicans, had the financial crash of 1929. He is the president that came in after that. And he basically used the coffers, the bank account of the United States government to pay people to go to work. So he paid people to go to work, but they went to work building our railroad systems, our highway systems, our dams.
The New Deal?
The New Deal, exactly. What's going on with the New Deal? Donald Trump, in his whatever adjective you want to give him, in his short-sightedness, had an opportunity to do that with what's going on with the pandemic right now. He could have took the governmental coffers and paid people and put people to work to better our country. You know, our infrastructure. We got bridges that are falling down. We got roads that need to be redone. He could have been paying people, paying us, citizens, the 99 percenters, he could have been paying them not to sit at home, not to get a check to stay at home, but he could have been hiring them to be able to plant trees, you know, reinforce our dams, all those type of things. He could have put America back to work. But in his short-sightedness, what he do? He took the money and then gave it to the 1 percenters. So it's just a difference in philosophies, and that's why this gentleman that we have in the White House right now is so dangerous, as far as I see. I mean, and I'm being polite, but
okay.
That's what makes him dangerous to me, is to have a second term of what he's got going on right now, because of the mindset, whether he don't know, whether he don't care, don't matter. You asked and worked to become the president of the United States, not the president of the 1 percenters, not president of white folks, not president of folks that don't like the poor. You ran to be president of all of us, with all of our pluses and all of our minuses. And he just, for whatever reason, he does not understand his role.
Well, see, this is the issue that the dumb Americans are taking. He's enacting his role. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do for his friends as he's in there. Now, it's up to us, like you said earlier. We're the government. Why is he still able and in there to do their bidding? It's because they've ran their system well enough to allow themselves to continue their business.
Correct.
This is business as usual. They're doing business in the 20% lane. That's how that's supposed to be done. That's what they do. They con and scheme and steal from, or I shouldn't say steal, take from the government, which is the body of people that they're supposed to be helping. Correct? Yeah. He's putting it back out. Now, how I see it is that he's doing this because he's of that mind, that 70 over 55 year mentality. When he was a little boy and he saw things done a different way for his people. That's why it's all about loyalty. Like I said a couple of shows ago, that we're the demarcation line. If your mindset is older than us, let's say 55, you think about the world a certain way. You think the greedy mine, how much can I grab? What can I get out of it? Somebody asked me, what are the issues? The issues are immigrants, for me, as I see it, immigrants and the older, as you say, 1%, I think it's more like 5%. That population is what's screwing up the United States. They don't have a contract. They don't understand the social contracts that have put people here. So
you have to explain that some more for me. What do you mean by not understanding the social contracts?
A part of a social contract would be not to go outside and eat and discard your trash on the ground. Another part of the social contract would be not to run your car into someone else's car so that you can profit from the insurance. Morals, values. Another part of the social contract would be that you don't load a business up with bad loans and things and defund and defuse that business as it goes out of business, and then you take and run with the insurance or whatever and run off and start a whole new company.
But that's not ascribes. The immigrants and the 1%ers don't have that system in the headlock. That's everybody. That's a hustle. I mean, I can tell you people who are insurance frauding right now. This whole thing with the money that the government just put out, where Kanye West and all these other moguls are taking and receiving these federal funds that's supposed to be helping people during the pandemic. That's a fraud. And so,
yes, and that's what I'm saying, that the social contract and people with morals and values wouldn't do that. So as long as a person that's saying, well, that's normal inside the 20%, you know, these Confederate statues standing within inside of our 20%, it's fine. People can rob and steal as long as they can get away with it. That's fine. People can hold back from Congress and then be pardoned by the president. Oh, that's fine. No, I'm saying that it takes a little bit more of an ethical person to say, no, that's not okay. That's what I'm saying.
agreed. But that I just my only frustration with that is that you're ascribing it to a particular population of people.
Right, I know.
And I think that is applicable to all kind of folks. We can go to Butler Park right now, and I can find you some people over there right now who's running the sham of workers' comp and running the scam.
He said that. I ain't said that. Don't come looking for me. That's what he said.
Fraud, and I mean, so think about it. What you just said. The man in the White House right now has got 6 bankruptcies. He has run 6 corporations, 6 companies into the ground. So there's a great offender of
people. This is how other folks start using my point to make me the correct, to show that I'm correct. Continue, sir.
Well, I agree with you that that's the best example I can give everybody. Is the man who occupies the White House right now has bankrupted either 6 or 7 businesses.
Okay.
So if he's the head of America, of the United States, he's the figurehead.
Right.
So he basically is the example that people are saying that that's okay.
Right.
So, okay.
Now, a moral person would say that it's not okay. But like you said, everybody is running greedily around taking their shares. And that's why the America that we know, or that we would like to know, can't last the way that this is being ran.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly agreed.
Someone has to...
I was thinking about this on my long road trip. Because my brain is I drove 60 hours over 8 days. But right now, what we have going on is a monopoly game.
It's always been a monopoly game.
Correct. And in the monopoly game, what is the goal?
To take all the assets.
Correct. To be the one person that has all the assets on the board. So what happens when one person gets all the assets on the board? Can you play any longer?
No.
Okay. So you cannot run the United States of America's government like a business, like you do with the monopoly game. That's not the way our system and structure is. But unfortunately, the people who are in power right now, the people who are making the rules and our president of the United States is playing life and playing the United States game like a monopoly game. You can't keep doing that.
Yeah, you can. I'm going to tell you why you can. The reason you can is because along the way to the top, you put in false floors where it appears that you've lost something, and then you just make that up. You create more space, your lane, and then you occupy that space. And then when you occupy all that space, you create more space, and then you occupy that space. And what you're saying is sooner or later, it'll continue and continue and continue.
But okay, so think about this. If that game, the Monopoly, it was just about the property, which it is,
Right?
and everybody starts out with this. Everybody in the game, when you start Monopoly, starts off with the same amount of money.
Okay.
And if there's 10 people playing that game, and all of them have the same amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
if all of those monies, all the cash money, ultimately all the property, because they would own all the property, the reds and the greens, all that kind of stuff, and all that stuff. How do you play that game?
You infuse more money.
So you got all the money.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to keep playing the game. So you're going to give me money?
No, we're going to create more money. And then, well, yeah, I guess I would, but we're gonna print and make more money. And maybe it's as simple as creating, say, this is the red Monopoly game. Then you go to the gold Monopoly game when you finish, and then you keep your money that you have, then everybody else gets reallocated whatever they started with, and then you play that Monopoly game. And when whoever plays for a while and they come up with, somebody else might come up with all the money. And then you go to the platinum Monopoly game.
So what you're saying is then when the game gets to a point where it looks like the game is not going to operate anymore,
You move the goalpost.
Yeah, okay. And you can't have a society where you continuously move the goalposts. It's going to break down.
It's worked for 400 years.
Agreed, and it's changing.
Oh yeah, it's changing.
Okay, so obviously what's been happening for the 400 years here, them keep moving the goalposts, is not working. Now, what happens in the next 400 years, I don't know. But the society that we've had, you know what? Now that you bring that up, I encourage everybody. If you guys have not listened to, you know who Malcolm Gladwell is?
Mm-hmm.
You have got to listen. Go find Malcolm Gladwell's podcast about the 4th of July. I don't remember what season it's in. I don't remember if it's 3 or 4, whatever. But you have got to hear what he has factually found out and researched about the founding fathers. We have totally been sold a bill of goods, and it's not surprising to me. I'm not comfortable enough with sharing it with you, but I can tell you right now.
Well, share some ideas so that
what we believe and what we've been taught about the Boston Tea Party was absolutely erroneous.
kind of like what they've taught us about Christopher Columbus.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there is no difference with the founding fathers. In his estimation and the research that he's able to come up with, the founding fathers, the one who threw the tea into the harbor, were smugglers. And the reason why they threw the tea into the harbor was because that was their competition. That they were smugglers, and the tea that they threw into the harbor was the government's tea, who they were didn't want to pay taxes on anymore. And he's got boat manifests and those type of things. He's gone back in and research. It was an interesting listen, but I've only listened to it once, and so I don't want to say too much about it because I may be erroneous in some of the things that I'm saying. But you got to check that out. Malcolm Gladwell, he's got a series of podcasts that you guys can go check out. Please look up the one for 4th of July. Check that out. It is interesting. It's all outdoors. And he has a different way of delivering his messages. Ooh, I think I just screwed up something.
You're all right.
You all right? So anyway, we've got 117 days until we, the people, the actual government, actually goes to work, and we'll see what the result is.
Goes to work, conducts another silent, non-violent revolution, and votes.
I don't know if this one's going to be silent, though.
Well, that's why we vote, so that we won't go out with, guns and bayonets and overturn cars and burn up stuff, and we just have a silent movement to the voting ballots, or to the election, the polling places, and cast your vote, and we're supposed to live with the outcome.
Well, we don't have any option. I mean, that's not true. We do have some other options. It's very hard to perpetuate some of those other options, the recalling and doing some other things. So the election cycle's up right now. People are filing paperwork. There's 100.
Oh, tax. Yeah.
What's that?
Get your taxes in today, just a side note.
Is it today? Oh, yeah, it is today, huh? Tax day is today. The extension on the taxes is today. Now, you can, from what I understand.
This was, If that's you, take care of your taxes.
Right. But from what I understand, if you do an extension, you'll have 120 days from the day. It's not October 15 like it always is. It sounds like it goes into January, if I'm not mistaken. So you need to be sure of that. Thank you for saying that, by the way. Maybe that's why Mama was bothering me today about her taxes. Anyway, okay, so that means I got some more work.
Everybody got to hustle.
Yeah, so please get your taxes done. We don't want nobody going to jail. The thing about the taxes that you heard about what's going on with the taxes is that there have been so disarmed, the people who do the investigations. They've got positions that have not been filled and those type of things. They can't really do audits. And so the people on the poor people who are shaky with their taxes are more likely to get audited than the corporations and the wealthy, because the IRS does not have the manpower to be able to go after it, or the workforce to be able to go after it.
Interesting.
So if you think you're going to be able to go through this cycle without paying your taxes, please, that ain't for us, by the way. Unless you're a multi-million-dollar person, maybe you might be able to get away with it. So I was going to ask you another question, and now it's escaped me.
Yeah, I'm still handsome. I'm still beautiful.
Wasn't with policing, although that's something I want to talk about. We don't have time.
Did you get your defunding correct now? Have you been listening and talking to people? No, you still resistant.
You guys are using the wrong word.
You still resisting.
It's not a matter of resistance. The defund police is the wrong word. That's not what people mean.
Oh, no, that's what they mean. But what you're saying is that the majority of the people are wrong by using that term, defund the police.
Correct.
But there's actually I was watching The View one day, and the lawyer on there, I can't think of her name, the African-American Latino lady, and she said that term is actually correct. The defunding means taking monies from one place into the police budget and moving it to somewhere else.
And you need to go back and look at our definitions. D means to remove, to take away, to eliminate.
All right.
Okay.
I'm just telling you.
I got you.
So she said that there's two other terms. Dismantling means what you're saying, to
reallocate.
Totally. Maybe the other one was reallocate, but dismantling was to totally take away and just abolish the police and that department. Gone. Defunding means taking the budgets from inside of the police department and moving it and shifting it to other things.
Okay. We still disagree.
Oh, we're going to disagree because
I know that they're using that term, and
but those are the subtleties of the way the argument falls to our foots, and the understanding is that the majority of people are going to understand defunding the police the way I see it, and the small minority are going to see it, as you say, the correct way of defunding, taking and abolishing. So what happens is then the dichotomy is the violence and the clashing, because you have a population that now wants to be certified. Defunding means abolishing the police department, and we're not going to allow the police department to be defunded or abolished. Okay. Well, that's not what the majority means. So when they have a resistance, they can stand there with their chest poked out and their chin up going, well, that's not what you said, and that's not what you meant. And the majority is going to overtake and push those folks out of the way. So I get you. I get you. Hold on to that.
Words matter.
Yes, they do.
Okay. That's what I'll say. Words matter. And I think that the conflict that you're describing is not a matter of where people's stances are. It's a matter of the understanding of the words that are being used to describe what it is you want.
Okay.
So if you want, ice cream, don't tell me you want cold stuff, because I'm going to bring you a Slurpee. Okay? I might bring you an ice cream, but just asking for cold stuff is...
So yeah, but I might get sherbet. I might ask you for ice cream, which would be ice milk, and then you bring me sherbet, which is,
So words matter.
Yeah, and they're an easy way to deflect and to maintain a power control status. So, are you against reallocating monies in the police department to
I'm
other
wholeheartely
social?
for that.
Okay.
I think that there are, and I've said that, I keep saying that they need social workers, any monies that are in the police department budget that goes towards social work needs to be taken out. Any money in the police department for these school contracts with Fresno Unified and these other Central Unified, all those needs to be taken out. Seattle brought up something that I hadn't even thought about, which I think needs to be pulled out now: 911 services. 911 services does not need to be under the auspices of the police department. 911 services is something that, and I'm not one for privatization, but if there was something that needed to be privatized, I would think that 911 services need to be taken out of that. Here's why. When a 911 call goes now into, when a 911 call is received and the 911 operator sends it out, it's inside the same, it's under the police department.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's an understanding of what priorities are based on how the philosophy is set down by the police department, the 911 operators and the officer, the responding officer, is going to be part of that. If you have the 911 responder outside of the police department, so that they then have been told by their entity, whatever that entity is, here's what the priority list is. Now the officer, it just makes a clear, for me, it makes a clear line of responsibility and accountability. So if this 911 officer or this 911 operator calls a police officer and tells them A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and he takes his time getting there, okay? If it's all under the police, now the police can finagle it any way they want to. If 911 is outside of that, only thing the police department can finagle is how that officer responded. Can't be done off of the call. Same thing with fire. Same thing if it's a domestic violence type of thing, or a domestic, not violence, but a domestic dispute. Go to the 911 officer. Now they're making a decision. Do we need to dispatch an officer, or do we need to dispatch a social worker? I mean, so there's just a different philosophy and a different way of doing that. But there are quite a few things that are under the police budget right now that I believe needs to be pulled out. But the police department does not need to be abolished. The police department does not need to be defunded, which taking all their funds away.
It's not taking all their funds away.
Okay, we disagree. I don't agree with those, but there is a huge chunks of the police department budget that I think needs to be taken out and allocated to provide those services in other ways to other departments.
Those services need to be defunded under the police department and reallocated.
Agree with you.
Okay.
Those services under the police department's budget needs to be defunded.
I'm just trying to give you something that you can
agree.
Work with. Something
I agree
that you
with
can,
you.
That
so
you can
so the
sink your
monies
teeth
for
into.
social services, the monies that goes into the educational components, the monies, and now thinking goes into 911 needs to be defunded out of the police department budget. The police department budget does not need to be defunded. The overall budget does not need to be defunded. That's what I mean about words. Words matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I got you.
Yeah, the police department is not going to go. The police unions are not going to allow people to take monies out of their budgets. That's just not the arrogant nature of the police department.
They're not going to let them, but it's going to happen. Because that part of it is not up to the police unions. That part of it is up to the city council. And I can tell you right now that the makeup of the city council, there is going to be changes to the police budget.
Here in Fresno?
Yes. I'd be willing to bet you. Bet you my next paycheck, which I don't have. I can do that because I don't have another paycheck coming. But I'd be willing to bet you my next paycheck that the police department budget is going to be.
Words matter. Sooner or later, you're gonna have a paycheck coming in.
Yeah, some point in time, but I don't now. So, anyway.
We'll see. That's going to be an interesting fight. That's going to be a very, very interesting fight, especially being that this is a conservative Fresno where the minority rules the majority. So it's going to be very interesting. We're going to see.
One of the things that came up that I don't have enough information on it, I just kind of saw a blurb, is that they're reopening the police chief search. And so I'm not quite sure what all is entailed, and I got to do some more research. But it sounded like they were going to try to get it restarted.
Is Hall
August
breaking
1st.
down or something? Is he leaving?
Well, he can't. He's got to go in. Yeah, he's got a deadline, but his deadline's not until 2021. I don't remember what it is, but he cannot work past some date in 2021 because of his whatever his status is.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they're supposedly gonna restart that. The other thing I want to talk about at some point in time is the policing commission, the policing reform commission, because there's some interesting information that's coming out of that as well as it's developing. So, anyway. So we're up against it. So hey, please make sure this is for everybody.
No money.
Please make sure you get your census information completed. Census 2020 or 20 census. Please go there. Get your information completed. No matter where you are. I see. What's up, Joanne, Arkansas? Thank you for staying up late watching us. Make sure you get your census done and make sure everybody. You can actually do everybody there in Taulet.
I think I got it.
You can
Hey,
do the whole Taulet city yourself.
Did you know Lunel was from Taulet?
I did.
I didn't know that until the other day.
Yeah,
Shocked me and surprised me.
Yeah, Linnell is, yeah.
But that explains it.
So anyway, hey, Joanne. So please make sure you get your census done wherever. Those of you who are here in California, actually everybody, please make sure that you go and get registered to vote. There were some primaries that happened yesterday. I don't know what the results of them were.
Where were they?
I don't even remember. Texas, Alabama. But
Who having a beach party? Beach party.
For what?
All these folks ran out Memorial Day and 4th of July. Now they contracted COVID. Now they break dancing to the mortuaries.
You know the funniest one? The governor from Oklahoma got up there and confessed today that he's COVID positive.
Oh, Brazil.
And well, him too. But I'm just talking locally. Where was he 2 weeks ago?
Oh, I don't know.
3 weeks ago.
Rodeo?
Tulsa.
Oh.
The rally in Tulsa. And the other one, 999 man.
Oh, yeah. The Black Knight.
Yeah. He got it from they're attributing his positive COVID to being there in Tulsa. Anyway, we're over time, man. We're up against it. Anyway, so please make sure you get your census done. Please make sure you get registered to vote and plan on participating in November 3rd ballot. Those of you in District 3 and Area 3, Fresno County Area 3, I'm your guy. Anyway. G, what's up?
Oh, nothing, man. I'm just loving life. No worries, no cares. I ain't sending my babies to the germ factory, though. I can tell you that.
That ain't your choice.
And
the germ factory ain't gonna be open.
Well,
maybe January.
Because it's acceptable online. That ain't gonna happen.
Hey, by the way, those of you who are involved in athletics here in California, I may have an update for you next Wednesday. So we're expecting a decision about the fall sports for the whole state of California on Monday. So hopefully I'll have some information for you there. But anyway, it's time for us to go. So anyway, we'll be back here next Wednesday, God willing, 8 o'clock. You've been listening to In Touch with the Miller Boys, your Wednesday night talk show where we discuss a whole bunch of stuff that affects people that look like you and I. So until next week, God bless you, and we'll see you then.
Love, peace, and hair grease.